Today we're going to be moving on to dilations. So we've already talked about translations and reflections. So the next one is dilations. Now a dilation changes the size of a figure by a scale factor to create a similar figure. Now remember, when we talked about scale factor before, that's when we're using multiplication to help us solve these problems. Now when the scale factor, in this case we'll just use A, is greater than 1, so if it's like 2, 3, 4, 2.5, your pre-image, that starting image, is going to get bigger, it's going to enlarge. If it's less than 1, like 1/2, 1/4, 1/3, your pre-image is going to get smaller, it's going to be reduced. And if it's equal to 1, then the pre-image is going to stay exactly the same. It's not going to move anywhere, it's going to be exactly the same shape. So we're going to do some practice problems with dilations. You'll notice that these are pretty simple. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is we're going to dilate triangle ABC by a scale factor of 2. So first of all, most importantly, we're going to figure out what our points are. Okay, this will make it easier. It's much easier if you actually write the points down for this one. I know with reflections and translations, you can just use like the x-axis or the way you actually move the figure to just physically move it. You don't really need to use the points, but I do stress that you actually apply these properties to those points. For dilations, you definitely want to use the points. Okay, it'll make this way easier. So for point A is at 1, 2. Over 1, up 2. Point B is at 2, -1. And point C is at -2, -1. So now what we're going to do is for dilation, since we're increasing this by a scale factor of 2, that means that this is going to get bigger. Okay, when you see the word scale factor, that means we're going to multiply. So this is basically saying we're changing triangle ABC by multiplying each point by 2. So we're just going to multiply x by 2, y by 2, x by 2, y by 2, x by 2, y by 2. Right? So let's multiply. 1 times 2 is 2. So A prime is going to be 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. So A prime is at 2, 4. I just multiplied x and y by 2. B prime, 2 times 2 is 4. -1 times 2 is -2. And then C prime, -2 times 2 is -4. And -1 times 2 is -2. So I'm going to go ahead and graph that. So I'm going to graph A prime at over 2 up 4. Please make sure you are labeling your points. You cannot forget to label them. Okay, don't just draw the triangle with just the dots. Make sure you're actually labeling the new points, A prime, B prime, C prime, whatever letter they are. Okay, so B prime is at 4, -2. So over 4, down 2. Label my point. C prime is at -4, -2. Label my point. Okay, now I'm going to try my best to connect them. You may want to use a ruler to help you with this so your lines aren't as wavy as mine are. If you want, you can just use the edge of your paper to help you trace them. Up to you. Or you can freehand them like I did. Alright, so that is how you dilate by a scale factor of 2. You also will see scale factors of less than 1. So for number 2, we're going to dilate by a scale factor of 1/2. So scale factor again means we're multiplying, so we're just taking the ordered pairs and multiplying each value by 1/2. So our A is at 0, 4. Our B is at 2, -2. And our C is at -4, -4. So since we're multiplying by that scale factor of 1/2, I'm multiplying everything by 1/2. If it helps you, you can change these to decimals, but multiplying by 1/2 is pretty easy, especially when all the numbers are even. So I'm going to multiply by 1/2. So 0 times 1/2 we know is 0. And 4 times 1/2, well, half of 4 is 2. So A prime is at 0, 2. B prime Okay, it's 2 times 1/2. Well, half of 2 is 1. And then negative 2 times 1/2, half of negative 2 is negative 1. C prime, half of negative 4 is negative 2. And it's the same thing for the second point. So now I can go ahead and graph my new image. Since we are dilating this by a scale factor of 1/2, I will have a smaller image this time. A prime is at 0, 2. Make sure you label your points. B prime is at 1, negative 1. Label your points. C prime is at negative 2, negative 2. Label your points. And connect your dots. So you'll see that these images do look exactly like their originals, if I drew the lines perfectly. They look exactly like their originals, but they're either bigger or smaller. Now remember, if they have the scale factor of 1, it stays exactly the same.